We're back, guys, after a long 4 weeks of traveling. I tried to escape the UK grey weather and in Europe got smack banged with just rainy,
Oh,
windy, horrible weather. So it was a complete waste of a 4 week trip. But today I'm graced with Kristie Jones to be our new guest on the podcast. And look, I'll just shut up and let you run it. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
awesome. Well, I'm sorry about that holiday didn't go as well for you as you had hoped.
I got in the gym, so I got back in the gym, so that was a positive part.
Okay, good, good. Found time for that. That is important. Top 10 percenters are all working out, Shane.
Wow, okay. Dropping gold early in the
Already
call.
dropping some nuggets, right? So I am Kristie Jones. I am a sales consultant. I work with mostly VC-backed early stage SaaS startups. I've recently written a book that'll be out on August 20th called Selling Your Way In, the playbook to setting your income and owning your life. I grabbed that nugget from the book. There are plenty more where that came from. But I have spent the last 8 years running my own consultancy business, helping all kinds of founders from all over the world try to build new sales teams, generate more revenue, and scale.
Wow. So why though? Why did you get into this?
I got laid off, so that's the real reason.
Yeah.
sometimes life throws you curveballs. As I was going out to find a new VP of sales role, the universe conspired to take me in a different direction. And so I also believe when the universe speaks, you should listen.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that had happened in the past that I had been doing sort of just because because I just did them, came back to benefit me in the future. And a bunch of crazy things happened as I was meeting with people and networking. People were introducing me to other people, and those other people were asking me to do things that were not what I was looking to do. And at some point, one of the gentlemen that I was speaking with and doing some training for his sales team said to me, "This is what you should be doing. Let's get you to start a business." And he became my business sugar daddy. And he funded me. He said, "I want you to give me 10 hours a week at a minimum, but I will take 30 hours a week, up to 30 hours a week, and pay you accordingly until you have enough clients to be on your feet and be fully loaded."
Wow. That is like really a huge blessing. Oh my God.
Yeah,
How long ago was that? How long ago was that? What era
that
are
was
we?
2016.
Okay.
Yep. So that was about 8 years ago. And I spent about 2.5 years helping he and his sales and customer success team. I recently went back into their office and did about 10 weeks. Once a week, I did some sales training once a week for 10 weeks. So those relationships are still strong. And really, truly, his name is David, and I could not have done it without him. I got help from other places, but no one had really ever talk about believing and backing in me. Helped me come up with a logo. Like he was instrumental in getting me started and giving me the confidence to do it.
Wow, talk about capturing a good moment. That is insane. Well, all right. So I'll give you. So it's funny, like how things turn out, and I've been speaking to a few people recently about this. Like, just trust the process. Sometimes it's really not what you want it to be, but
Right.
it just ends up being good as long as. Like one book that really made a big change in my life, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly
Yeah.
Successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just trust that as long as your values are in line with like your life and abide by those values, you really have a very small chance of fucking up. And it's the truth.
It
I
is.
truly believe it. So I came back to the UK in 2014. I don't know if you know much about my story, but
Mm-mm.
I was born and raised in the UK. I lived in America for 15 years. So I grew up from 13 to 27 in the US.
Okay.
Like I had a blast, and I lived in New Jersey, so I was right around from New York. Everything was very, very nice. My dad worked at Goldman Sachs, so we had like a
Oh,
super sweet life.
yeah.
But a super sweet life around a bunch of rich kids gets you in a lot of trouble
It
because
can.
there's money and
Yep.
you have to get a job. What do you do with money, no job, and your friends?
Spend
Drugs.
it. Yeah. Spend it. Yep.
Exactly. And then what ended up happening was I got myself into some trouble, and then I moved back to the UK, and I had to start from literally zero. So I went to a place in America. I wanted to get into capital markets. become a stockbroker, financial advisor, took my Series 7, my 63, and then had to come to the UK and start as a security guard. Then I got
Mm.
into sales, and what was it? About 4 or 5 years in sales, I reached a point where COVID happened, and like those signs, trust the signs.
Yep.
COVID for me was like that point where God was saying, hey, go sit down. I'm not like one of these religious people, but hey, go sit down and think about your life. He lit like the government, every place in the world said you don't have to pay rent if you can't afford it. You basically don't have to keep up with your bills. So
Right.
all of that money, I took advantage of that. I put it aside, and me and my buddy, we started a business. And that business ended up generating $1 million in revenue in less than 3 years. It tumbled at the end of it. And I'm on another journey in the past year where it's gone up and down. I've been through tons of stuff, but it's landed me in a position where I get to speak to people like you. I'm building an AI company right now with a bunch of founders that it's a funded company. So that's really exciting. And for the first time in my life, my network has been what it's like is I can't even put a price on my network, but it's been incredible. And I found that spark in America when I saw that like you could literally do anything, run a car wash business and be a millionaire. You
Yeah.
could have literally the most ridiculous ideas and make so much money. So one question that I follow up on that with is like, where did you find your spark? Like getting through all of that before 2016, where did
Mhm.
you discover a spark in you that you were a little bit different from most of others?
Um, that's a good question. I would think probably in my late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
I grew up in an entrepreneurial house. So my parents owned a real estate business. They had a Coldwell Banker franchise. And so I say I got my MBA at the kitchen table.
Love.
Money was very transparent in our house.
Yeah.
I knew when my dad was and wasn't taking a salary to make payroll. I knew what everyone. So my mother had spent 13 years teaching and then got her real estate license over one summer, taught one more year, and then went into real estate. So she was an individual contributor. My dad was the owner broker. I knew what her commission checks were. We were involved in going by houses that she had listed and out of town buyers and all of that. And so my brother is a very successful individual contributor. I took my dad's path into leadership, but
Hmm.
there's no doubt in my mind that we would not be who we are today if we had not grown up in that environment. And my dad had been a mid-level manager working for what we know today as AT&T. It used to be Southwestern Bell, but he worked for the United Telephone Company. So out
Yeah.
of college, just a mid-level manager. My mom was a teacher. We were middle class folk, and my dad took that risk to go into business with his brother, and that dramatically changed our life as a family and our lifestyle. And so one of the reasons I wrote the book is because I feel like I have an obligation to take what I learned growing up in a household that taught us all kinds of financial acumen, business acumen, financial literacy, and share that type of information with people who didn't grow up the way that I grew up.
I think it's massively important. I've had so many conversations around just like we were on a work trip the other week in Portugal, and we was just I have a 2-year-old daughter. The other guys that we work with, their kids are a little bit older, and a conversation came up around school, and then like what it takes to be a business owner and how many things you have to learn from scratch as a business owner, like without having that knowledge from what you got on the table. So
Yep.
what do you say are the most, let's say, the most crucial learning points that a teenager or even a college kid should be taking on board right now if they want to take a path into entrepreneurship or
Mhm.
being a business owner? What are the things you think that they should focus on?
I think what I saw modeled for me was that hard work sometimes outdoes brain power.
Yeah.
So you might not be the smartest person in the room, but you can outwork those who are. That work ethic piece is really, really critical. I think treating people right. So you talked about the things that happened to you and that God spoke to you. The Christyism for that, I've got lots of Christyisms, but the one for that one is do the right things and the right things will happen. And
Yep.
so I believe I saw my parents doing the right things ethically. The value system was clear. And even when people maybe didn't treat them the way that they should be treated, they didn't, nothing, they took the high road, as Michelle Obama would say, when they went low, we went high. I think those are for sure the two things. And then I really do think that relationships matter, right? And so whether that would be repeat customers for my mother, as a real estate agent, or referrals were critical in her business. My dad needed to attract the best agents in town. And so reputation, your personal brand, if you will, and your reputation, that in some of those businesses like that, like that was my mother was her own brand, right? My dad was representing the entire company with his brand. And so brand matters, your reputation matters. And, once you've tarnished that, it's hard to get that back. But that just goes back to treating people the way you want to be treated. These are just golden rule things, right, Shane? I mean, like, this isn't rocket science. There's no, again, like, the fairy doesn't come with the fairy dust and the wand. Like, these are things that everybody really knows, but
Mhm.
that, it but sometimes requires more discipline than not to stay the course and believe in yourself, and believe that if you do the right things, and the right things will happen to you.
So how did you get through those points in your career, or even when you started your business? Those moments where you're like, "Oh my god, I don't know if I can handle this right now. Like, this is too much. You've got your family life, you've got your work life, you've got your own life, you've
Mhm.
got so many thoughts that are just racing through your head." What kind of advice would you give to people that are in those throes? They're really struggling. They don't have the tools to really get themselves out of it. What do you kind of advise them to look at or to do?
Yeah, I did a few things. I've had a couple of those points, as you know, as a business owner. I remember being down to my last $3,000 in my business account, and I was out of clients. That's one of the challenges. If you become a consultant, you also have to really do enjoy sales, because you can be a subject matter expert in the healthcare industry, but you still have to go out and find business. So the good news is I'm a sales consultant, so that makes my life a lot easier, because sales
Yeah,
is something that comes naturally to me. Um, but I remember I realized that I wasn't eating my own dog food, if you will. I wasn't drinking my own Kool-Aid. I'd not been
yeah,
prospecting, right? And I know that was the right thing to do because I was teaching it every day. But all
yeah.
of a sudden I woke up one day because I was busy, right? Because I was working 50 and 60 hours a week. I was, taking on meetings during the day, doing the homework, if you will, nights and weekends for my clients. And so the next thing I know, like, contracts were just coming up for, at the end of the contract. Like, it wasn't that anybody, decided to quit. Like, the work was done, right? I had completed the mission. I completed the project. And so I remember taking like a really aha moment, and I called my dad and I said, I think I may have to go get a W-2 job again. And I said it like it was poison, right? I was like, I
Mm.
have to get a W-2 job. I'm like, oh my God, like, what if I have to go back with the other people and do what the other people are doing? And he's like, nope. He's like, no. He's like, this is what you should be doing. And he goes, it's funny. He said, you're very outspoken. And he was right. I am. And he said, this job is perfect for you because you tell people what they need to hear that they don't want to hear. And instead of firing you, they pay you. He's like, it's genius. He's like, you cannot go back to a W-2 job. You're going to get fired. He's like, you've been out on your own too long, right? You've
Yeah.
gotten sassy. You've gotten
Mhm.
sassy. Yeah. And so I sat down and was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And one of
Yeah.
the things I decided was, first off, obviously prospect and reach out to those, get referrals from prior clients. But I started a newsletter. I bought HubSpot. I started marketing. I hadn't been doing any of that. Like, I had truly been leading a blessed life. I say that. Like, at that point, almost all my business had come from referral. And still
Yeah.
today, 92% of my business comes from referral. The other 8%, by the way, comes from me being a guest on podcasts and people seeing me that way. But
Mhm.
but I was like, okay, so, like, get off your ass, drink your own Kool-Aid. Like, I was not walking my talk, right? I was not doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
I was telling people to do something that I was not doing myself or practicing in my own business. And so, again, I knew what the right thing to do was. I just wasn't executing on that. I didn't have the discipline to do it. Plus, I was like fat and happy. I was like, oh, I've got 5 clients, then I had 4 clients, then I had 3 clients, then I had 2 clients. Then all of a sudden I was 30 days from that last client's project being done.
I'll tell you what, it sounds so familiar and it's such a common theme across so many different profiles. So I was the same. The first 2 years of business, I was gung ho in prospecting. The one thing that I knew that I was just, not to toot my own horn, but I'm fantastic when it comes to prospecting. And that's how, when I weighed up hold on a second, you're making £500,000 a year for this company, and they're giving you 10% commission, the freaking job is so like they don't have like the company didn't have a name. They didn't have that name. So it was all cold calls. So I
Right.
figured like
Right.
what's going to be the difference whether it's Shane Mahi Consulting. So I ended up doing that. And then for 2 years, I built that pipeline, just speaking to everybody I could. And just like you said, 92% of all of our business came from referrals. And then
Mhm.
come year two, because things were flowing so well, I decided to delegate prospecting to my business partner, who wasn't the prospecting extraordinaire. And within 7 months, I don't speak to him anymore, so it don't really matter. But within 7 months, the business tanked, absolutely tanked. And again, it was build pipeline. I have to grow the business.
Yep.
So it really is like if you have a problem, I've read it so many times. If you have a problem in your business, go build pipeline. It probably is the solution to all the problems you have. Build pipeline, get cash,
Solves
and
a lot of problems. Yep.
it really does. So one of the questions that a lot of companies or a lot of individuals ask is, "What's it? Describe what it's like to build a business."
It is rewarding and exhausting all at the same time.
I love
Again, you're really it's just you, right? I mean, it's just me
that.
and my reputation. It's making sure that I, provide a quality product, that I deliver what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. That I'm giving value, right? That I'm providing value. I think the most important thing that I do is that. And
Mhm.
I think some of the times I'm providing value that has nothing to do with the project that I'm creating for someone. I put sales playbooks together. I build out and formalize and document processes. I help companies hire top talent. I project manage the hiring process. I'm not a staffing company, but I literally handhold them through the process, including lead the interviews for them. And sometimes I do, I speak, I do trainings, I speak, and I do some interim sales leadership. But at the end of the day, I think the things that I see out in the business, right? Because I'm only working with startup founders for the most part. I can share ideas, I can put people together, I build a little community. I think
Mhm.
the value sometimes that I bring isn't in the finished product. It's in some of the hard conversations that need to be had. As my dad said, sometimes I just need to tell it like it is because they need to hear it, not maybe because they want to hear it.
Yep.
Um, and I think getting help when you need it, right? Like I have 1099s. I got to the point in my business, I made the decision to not hire a W-2 employee, not hire any full-time employees. And I rely heavily on 1099s. I built myself a little bank of those. I rely on Rev Genius Slack channel when I need to find certain people to do certain things with me. I have an assistant who works about 20 or 30 hours a week, but she's a 1099 as well. And then I send a lot of work out to Fiverr. To be honest with you. So, when I need anything design done, if I need a one sheeter or if I need some sort of a workbook put together, I go out to Fiverr and I've got a guy that I've been using for a while and he helps put things together for me. And so I've really pieced together a really nice business without having to have full-time employees that I have to worry about, when income, doesn't come in at the level I want it to and no insurance, those type of things. So I think like there's a type of business out there for everyone and you can do it your way. Like I'm part
Yep.
of a group of female sales consultants, women sales experts, and we meet regularly and we all have different businesses. We don't compete, we collaborate, but everyone's doing it differently. I mean, some people have 4 or 5 full-time employees. They're doing, several $1 million in business. Others of us have a lifestyle business that we like. We're making the kind of money we need to support the lifestyle that we want to have.
Mhm.
But I think that's given me a really nice look into there is no one way to do it. It's the way that works for you. And I think I finally kind of put to rest. I'm at peace with the fact that I don't want to scale. And I'm not embarrassed to say that I'm totally happy with my lifestyle business. I think I struggled for 2 or 3 years with, scaling the business. I still think I could take the hiring help division, but make it its own division. There's enough business out there of people who, particularly in the early stage startup world, who don't know how to hire a top talented sales professional. And hiring sales rep number 1, 2, or 3 is different than hiring sales rep number 30.
Yeah,
I
that's
do think
right.
I could make that a full-time business and bring in full-time employees. But at this point, I've chosen not to do that. I think I really love, I love getting up every morning. I love what I'm doing. I'm going to leave you and I'm going to do 3 hour long back-to-back interviews for a company that I'm helping them hire 3 account executives for. And after that, I've got a meeting with my marketing team. which I've outsourced to another company. But I mean, like I look at my calendar every day, and every day is dramatically different than the last. And
Mhm.
that's what I get up, and that's what I love getting up for every day is, hey, now what do I got going on today? And, doing 3 hour long interviews back to back is hard and exhausting, but
It
I'm not
is.
doing it every single day. Right. And so every day is a little bit of a different day.
I think that's awesome that you say that because I was one of those people who thought, yeah, let me build a business and build it to 100 employees. And at like 12, it was a really, really big headache. And I'm not ashamed to say either, but after, like, so growing my business to 15 people, I think it was like 12 clients at most, all of them paying, what was it, 34,000. Our price was 34,500 for 4 months. And we were like
Mhm.
the highest priced one. So we were doing really, really good. But the headache that came with it, oh my God, my marriage went to shit with it. That was a big problem. What else?
Yep.
And after I got rid of that, like it got to the point where my business partner was like, I don't see runway. I created runway out of thin air, which entrepreneurs and founders usually do. And then it got to the point I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm doing a lot of the work myself. I'm just gonna do this myself. And that was my most profitable year ever
Yep.
in my life. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then, yeah, just like you said, you can outsource certain things. You don't
Yeah.
have to have people 12 hours of the day.
Nope.
It really does come down to that efficiency and how well you pick those things. So I'm glad you said that because a lot of people do have the wrong idea of, or a false idea of what business should be like. So, what do you think about AI in sales and marketing in 2024? I've had this conversation with John, which is how I found you. Interesting
Good.
there. John
Yep.
and I are working on some interesting things too in the interim period. But for yourself, what do you think about AI in sales and marketing today? And then we'll go into how should companies be using it.
So I've got a new vantage point, but I'll give you the old vantage point first.
Okay.
I think AI is amazing for efficiency. I think we
Yep.
should be using it in sales and marketing for efficiency. Again, like let's work smarter, not harder. We are only so many hours in the day, and so let's use it to make things easier. I think I'm all about automation. I'm all about AI. I'm all about bots. I'm all about all of those things that streamline the administrative shit that no one wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think things like, Gong, products like that, again, from a sales leadership perspective, or even as a rep, like things that can give you instant feedback. I'm all about data. So
Mm-hmm.
I think AI is an amazing opportunity for us to streamline, get more efficient, get more data, get more information. With that said, that's the science of sales. I am very concerned that the art of sales is going to become extinct as a result of that. I'm seeing more and more sales leaders rely on the science of sales to run their business. And if you interview with me, here's one of the questions you can expect to hear. Tell me about formal professional soft skills sales training that you've been provided at previous employers. And the number one answer is I haven't. It's not being trained, right?
I'm one of those. I was never trained. You know who my trainer was? Grant, John Barrow's favorite guy, Grant Cardone.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
That was
And
that was
even,
my trainer.
and so I'm hearing that over and over and over again that we're not teaching soft skills.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years in the e-learning industry as a sales leader in the e-learning industry. So I understand that world, but we're not teaching soft skills. We're again, I love programs like Gong and the like, and I'm all about CRM systems. I'm all about all of that. I'm all about the tech stack. But like if we're relying on Gong to give us coaching versus using Gong to help decide what sort of soft skills training we need for the team, for individuals. So I believe that there are four hats that a leader wears: the sales leader, sales manager, coach, and mentor.
Hmm.
And I think we're not doing enough coaching, and I think we're not doing enough mentoring of our team. And so I am concerned that all of a sudden we're going to wake up one day and people are not going to know how, like, the art of sales, the nuances, how to negotiate, you know, how to have, how to dig deep to figure out what's really going on, how to do a real discovery, how to do an interactive demo. I'm afraid that those type of sales skills are going to go away. I'm already seeing it because I live in the SaaS world. I say that the sales cycle is so fragmented. We as the seller own the first part, right? We are in complete control of discovery and demo. And then I say we hand the baby over to adoptive parents who are not qualified to raise it. We abdicate the sales cycle to the prospect. The minute the prospect says to a seller, great, thanks so much. We're going to talk internally. I need to go talk to my boss. I need to go talk to finance or whatever. We then literally like hand the sales cycle over to someone who's not qualified to run it. And nobody knows what to do about that. Like when I have this conversation with sales leaders and founders or sellers, even, they go, oh, they're like, well, how do we keep control of the sales cycle? And I'm like, you can. Like, it's a teachable skill, right? I can teach you how to keep control of the sales cycle and never let the ball stop rolling. But
Mhm.
but SaaS, that presents its own problem in SaaS. Here's the other thing I'm concerned about with AI. Again, I want that efficiency, but I think those out there that are still selling, and I'm not seeing it as much as I used to, but if you're still selling a license, you're in trouble because today you're selling 200 licenses to a company that by 2025 will have figured out enough efficiency to take that number to 120. And if
That's
you're
it.
selling a single seat license, you're screwed. And so you better start looking at your pricing model today and you better start selling solutions instead of seats, like real quick.
So elaborate on that. So let's say there's a founder who's building a company on two things. He wants to know, okay, well, what are the nuggets to keep control of the sales process? And then number two, on the second piece you've just mentioned, which is reiterate so I say the right wording. The last piece
Yeah.
you just said.
So if AI is going to come in and improve the efficiency, we're
Mm,
going to be doing that normally through, whatever software, that type of thing. You're going to need fewer people doing those tasks, right? If I can cut my administrative work, even as a sales professional, from 7 hours a week to 4, that means I'm going to be spending more time selling, which means ultimately that company won't need as many sellers because the sellers are going to be doing more selling, less administrative work because that's being done for them. I mean, again, I use Fathom, right? Like I got every one of my calls, I got the summary, I got the questions being asked, I got all of that. I'm cutting and pasting that. I do, when I do my discovery follow-up email,
mhm.
I'm just cutting and pasting, right?
Of
As opposed to
course.
have,
More
right? I
words,
mean, like,
right?
I'm not even taking notes anymore. I mean, I had like, I got like 27 of these. Like, most of them are now blank because
Yep.
I don't need to be taking handwritten notes anymore and then converting those into the CRM system and then converting those into the email, the follow up email. Like, I'm just cutting and pasting, which means I can do more discovery calls, right? And so if you're selling a software and you're still selling a seat license, that's going to come back to bite you because I'm going to go from 200 sellers to 120 because now they're more efficient, which means they've got more time to actually sell because they're doing less of the administrative work. It's being done for them. And so you better think about the pricing model.
So what does a solution look like then versus, so let's say there was a company I worked with. They used to do, what was it, 35,000 for a year, which was like just to sign up, and then they would have to have, I think it was between 30 and 50 as a minimum on their licenses.
Mhm.
So roughly 3,000, I think it's 3,000 a piece or something, 1,500 a piece. So let's say instead of 50 to 100 licenses that would
Right.
cost 30,000, what does a solution look like?
So let's just say you've got, again, let's say within that situation, you've got 7 products or 7 packages, right?
Mm,
Well, who cares how many people take it? Sell the package, right? Like I'll take the e-learning example for one. So e-learning is always broken up into catalogs, right? Do you need the compliance catalog? Do you need the IT catalog? Do you need the customer service catalog, the sales catalog, the finance catalog? What do you need? Well, let's just sell catalogs, right? Each catalog is X. Doesn't matter how many people take the courses. I don't care,
yeah.
right? Take as many courses as you want. I'm going to sell you catalog packages, or I'm going to sell you a package. I'm going to take features and make them packages. And if you want, again, like small, medium, large, right? You see that all the time, but it's still like you're still seeing like, 50, if it's a product led product,
Hmm.
59.99 a month for, for the tier 1,
Yeah.
tier 2 is 129 and tier 3 is 299. That's
Mm,
still selling a seat license. So what happens when I don't need as many of those? So I
very
think we
true.
as I don't hear a lot of people talking about this in SaaS, but the writing on the wall seems there for me because we're like, again, like I'm promoting efficiency through AI. I'm talking about people doing that. I'm a paid chat GPT user myself. I have another thing called campaign coach that I'm using to help me. I'm putting in my personas. I'm copy pasting all of the information about my personas. And the campaign coach is shooting me out like social media topics that I should use based on the pain points of these individuals. And so I'm using all of that to get more efficient. I don't have to hire out somebody to write a blog post for me. I can use
Yep.
campaign coach to help me do that, right? So again, loving it. So now I can produce more content,
Mhm.
right? In the same amount of time that I was producing less content. So I think that conversation has to start happening because it hasn't. I don't think the industry's seeing it just yet, but I am seeing companies shift from a per user model to a packaging or solution or a feature based model.
So let's run a scenario. Then we'll run a quick play, and then we'll go move on to the next piece. I was buying a subscription, data subscription today. It was out of Apollo,
Mhm.
Wizza, Lucia, and Apollo's packages were what? It was free, then 59 bucks, and then 99 bucks, and then you got enterprise. And
Mhm.
then Wizard was roughly the same, 49 bucks, then it was 85, and then it was 139. Now, the only two things I needed or that were relevant in that purchase were the unlimited emails. Out of those, I'm going to get like
Mhm.
100 or 200. And then the mobile numbers, which was 75 mobiles or 100 mobiles, which again, didn't need the buying intent, the sequencer, all these other things that were just completely irrelevant. So in that scenario, then what would you say? Apollo, not I'm not saying advice for them, but Apollo or Wizard should be doing. How should they be pricing that package as a solution instead?
Based on the solutions they have that meet just the needs that you have, right? It's always irritated people to pay X and only use two of the 10 things there anyway. So why don't we just sell the 10 things separately and package those together? Think about insurance for a minute, right? If you like like the progressive commercials here in the States, the bundle
Yeah.
and save, right? Bundle and save. So like, your boat insurance, your car insurance, your house insurance, like your umbrella, like bundle and save. I think the insurance people have figured it out. Bundle and save,
They
right?
are. They always try to get me. They always try to get. Oh, my phone provider. Oh my god! I went into the store the other day. I've got two phones with them. I've got all kinds of gadgets, and I said, "Hey, look, I just want to upgrade this phone." Oh well, before we start, do you have a broadband plan with us? I said, "Bro, just get me my goddamn contract. Get me my upgrade." So look, I get it. It does make a lot of sense. It is really frustrating. We were actually doing a pricing workshop this weekend too, and coming to that point of like, well, if a customer wants this and this, like, is there a reason to put all these other things in there too? And I think you've nailed it. So a lot of people they're using AI in some ways that you've mentioned. They're afraid of some of the harm that it can do for your brand. Let's say you install a bunch of AI bots that are going to have conversations for you, and then it starts being racist, prejudiced, rude, vulgar, telling your customers to piss off. Like, there's obviously those kind of things that can really happen. So, what are your predictions, though, in terms of sales and marketing, very specific to SaaS? What would your predictions be over the next 12 to 24 months in using AI? Where do you think it's going to go from what it is today?
I think it's going to be super helpful in researching inefficiencies. So again, I use it a lot for research.
Mhm.
I never let AI write anything for me. I'm actually using
That's
it to
very
do
wise.
graphics. I'm having it create some graphics for me, and that I'm having fun doing that. With Dolly, incorporating that. But I think actually selling is going to get more human. I think we're going to have to be. I think people are going to be craving more human contact, less, you know, fewer emails, fewer whatever. But I think they're going to be looking for sellers. I still think, again, buyers are going to continue to use AI to help them get further down the buyer's journey, by the way.
Yep.
Right. So already they don't want to talk to us till they're 60% or 70% of the way down. They may want to get to 80%. They can probably get even further down the buyer's journey before they're going to want to engage. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to probably get the information that you just spewed, right? Like at some point, you may be able to get the information about those 3 vendors and the pricing without ever talking to anybody. But you
Mm-hmm.
may have a question about bundling, right? If we're not going to sell a seat license anymore and we're going to sell, we're going to want to cherry pick it, at that point, you're going to have to talk to somebody, right? We'll make you talk to somebody. If you want the bundle and save package, then you're going to have to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. But I think the buyer is going to get further down the journey, but I think they're still going to I think we're going to have to work harder at personalization, customization, referrals, like other things that are more human in nature as the world starts to get more automated.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that you've got a very, very good point there. A very, very good point. So, one of the last things we wrap up with is how to be successful, consistent behaviors. What would you say are the top 3 pillars of success in your life?
I think it's the first thing that I mentioned, do the right things and the right things will happen. So I think everybody understands the difference between right and wrong. And when you get to that
Some
fork in
people don't. Common sense is not common. I learned
I
that a
think
long time ago.
I think people do know what to do, but they don't always want to do the right thing.
Okay,
So I
yeah,
think
that's
first
right.
first thing is when you come to the fork in the road, take the right path, right? Take the
Yeah.
path that you know is the right path to take. I think discipline. I think particularly in the world that I live in, and it goes back to that all problems can be solved with pipeline. It's a lack of discipline, right? Prospecting is hard. It's the redheaded stepchild of sales. It's the least fun activity. No one wants to do it, but it has the biggest impact. And what the difference between doing it and not doing it is the discipline to time block, to put a plan together, to execute the plan. So I think the other thing we're really missing is discipline. And then the other thing is accountability. And we touched on it a little bit, but
Ooh, I love
oh,
that.
baby, I know. We're not holding each other accountable. We're not holding ourselves accountable. We're not holding our prospects accountable, which is why that sales cycle comes to a screeching halt after you do the demo, because we're not holding people accountable. That goes back to the art of sales. It's just this easy, Shane, because you tell me, like, thanks so much for the demo. The 4 of us are going to go off and talk about it. And I go, great. When do you think that's going to happen? And you go, oh, probably by early next week. Great. And what are the things that you're going to discuss that are going to allow you to move forward with me? What do you need? Like, what needs to have that? What does that discussion need to look like? What does the success criteria need to look like? What are the boxes that need to be checked? And I go, sounds like you guys aren't really sure what you need to see. So let's have another call to discuss that.
I think that's a big piece that lots of people don't do.
Right. And that's the combination of the art of sales and being comfortable holding the prospect accountable. Right. And
I
again, like,
agree.
this whole not, we should never get off we all know we should never get off this call without scheduling the next call. But when
Absolutely.
you get that, well, we need to talk about it and we're not sure when we're going to meet. Well, then let's talk about when that really should happen. Why don't you guys have that conversation right here, right now? And if you think you're going to meet early next week, then let's put something on the calendar for Wednesday, because then it's going to force them to meet before Wednesday. Or, hey, listen, it doesn't sound like you guys actually know. Like, I call it the buying criteria, right? I
Hmm.
ask prospects, what's the buying criteria? If you're talking to me and 2 other consultants, what's your buying criteria? I ask candidates this all the time, by the way, which throws them off. I
Hmm.
ask candidates at the end of every call. So I know you're talking to 2 or 3 other companies. You've already told me that. What's your buying criteria? And they go, my personal buying criteria? I go, yeah. How are you going to make the decision about my job or these other 3 jobs that you're interviewing for? But I
Here's
think
another.
I think
Make sure the leadership team know what the hell they're doing.
that's right. And I think sales leaders are not holding their team accountable. They are not creating a culture of accountability. And if you as a sales leader don't have a culture of accountability, how do you expect your sales professionals to hold prospects and customers accountable?
They won't.
They
They
won't.
really won't. Well, I think that's where people need to come and find you, which
That's
is
right.
a perfect way to wrap up this amazing segment. So, where do people go if they want to? I think the biggest nuggets for me, again, just people not understanding when to walk away. Number one, if I know a question will come up, well, I've tried that, and they say, well, we'll come back to you. We can't really discuss it on this call. Well, then typically it kind of answers itself. That person isn't ready to buy. So
Correct.
that's number one. Founders, if founders want to learn more about moving from a poorly priced structure in your business to a solution focused structure, I think they should come to you too. But where is the best place to find you, Kristie?
A couple of great places. One, I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me about your one takeaway from today's podcast. And then if you go to kristiekjones.com, I've got a mailing list there, and I put out a weekly nugget. And all of the Kristieisms can be found in my new book, Selling Your Way In, and that can be found at sellingyourwayin.com. And you can pre-order it now from any of the bookstores that you like to pre-order books at.
Awesome. Well, look, I'll put all those links in the description below and any
Thank
type
you.
of audio that we have. But until next time, Kristie, any last words?
Do the right things. The right things will happen. Trust the universe.
This is a very, very good tip. It works. So thank you very much. I'll wrap it up now, and then we shall see you again.
Thank you.